Hello and welcome. I'm Eric Gao, and here's what happened this week. Tensions between Taiwan's two main political parties are heating up over investigations into misconduct in civic-led recall campaigns to oust legislators. A protest led by the Kuomintang against those investigations has now drawn scrutiny. Tiffany Wong has more.
Four local leaders of the main opposition Kuomintang now wanted by prosecutors for alleged involvement in signature fraud. It's part of investigations into misconduct in mass recall campaigns in Taiwan. Campaigns sparked by bitter conflict and deadlock in the opposition-controlled legislature. Senior KMT officials, including the party's chair Eric Zhu, called for this protest against the forced potential detention outside the prosecutor's office Thursday night. They say these investigations are unreasonable. Taipei Mayor and KMT member Jiang Wan'an called out what he says is bias for the ruling Democratic Progressive Party within the prosecutor's office.
与其让执政的民进党用不公不义的手段来毁坏台湾，我认为立法院应该推动倒戈。如果赖清德总统因此解散国会，我们就用立法院改选，对赖清德总统进行一次不信任投票。
On Friday morning, the premier responding to Jiang's calls to oust the cabinet.
发展到今天，人民是否同意是一个重要的议题。至于倒阁，就宪法上而言，行政院是被动的。
A vote of no confidence in the premier would require support from half of the legislature, where opposition parties hold a slight majority. But the legality of Thursday's protest is being called into question, with the Interior Minister calling for an investigation.
我们会把所有的这些跟集会游行法有关，包括是否在禁制区以内，或者是有任何其他的滋扰行为，全部移送由地检署来侦办。
As recall campaigns to oust both KMT and DPP legislators advance, analysts say this political storm has been a long time coming.
This confluence, which the KMT returned to power in the legislature, but does not hold the presidency, but also experienced then successive defeats in all these presidential election campaigns, that I think is what led to its attempts to expand legislative powers last year, then to freeze the Supreme Court, and then to then in fact cut the budget so drastically. And so now we're seeing this play out again electorally in terms of recalls.
The KMT is calling for another rally outside the presidential office on April 26th to call for a vote of no confidence in President Lai Ching-te. And as political parties get more involved in these civic-led recall campaigns, it's a time of reckoning for lawmakers and their parties. Justin Wu and Tiffany Wong for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan's Defense Minister Wellington Gu has been grilled at the legislature over a string of recent spy cases, some reportedly including people close to the former foreign minister. As Rick Lount reports, Taiwan is facing an uphill battle against Chinese infiltration.
Could a spy for China have infiltrated the inner circles of Taiwan's government? The man, identified here with a red circle, was an aide to Joseph Wu, the country's last foreign minister and current national security chief. He's now detained, suspected of gathering information on Taiwan's leadership and passing it on to China, a cross-strait neighbour which claims sovereignty over Taiwan. Such cases of espionage are on the rise here, with most of the suspects being military personnel. Now feeling the heat, Taiwan's Defense Minister Wellington Gu called to answer questions at the legislature.
责任局在搞什么？我10年来支持你们，这个案子一个直接接一个，层出不穷。我们自己当过兵知道，你在营区拿5星旗挥舞，部队有没有烂掉？
To weed out spies, Taiwan is already bringing back military courts, and now Ku says he wants to amend the military's penal code.
投降的这样子效忠的这样子的一个表示的时候，就本身就会构成违反陆海空军刑法。那另外投敌的部分，我们加了阴谋犯跟预备犯的部分。
President Lai Ching-te, despised by Beijing for his firm rejection of China's claims over Taiwan, has made combating Beijing's influence and infiltration central to his leadership. This rash of suspected spies coming out of the woodwork could indicate that his efforts against China, also known as the PRC, are working.
There's a claim that the PRC is stepping up its espionage activities. That having been said, with espionage cases coming to the public. Of course, they create a lot of trepidation. They create they draw a lot of attention. But the fact that espionage cases are being detected also means that espionage networks are being disrupted, right?
Taiwan's defense ministry warns that China's tactics are changing, increasingly using criminal gangs and religious groups to recruit new spies. It's an evolving threat for the Taiwanese military, trying to protect their credibility and integrity as they lead the country's fight against China. Klein Wang and Rick Laut for TaiwanPlus.
Now, President Lai, who also heads the ruling DPP, he has promised to root out spies from his party as well. He says party officials must report before and after they travel to China, including Hong Kong and Macau, or if they meet Chinese officials. Taiwan's Mainland Affairs Council has offered some leniency on a controversial demand that could see thousands of Chinese spouses scrambling to prove their right to reside in Taiwan. Reese Ayers reports.
Relief for some Chinese spouses in Taiwan after the government announces a new list of exemptions and delays to a controversial administrative request. The announcement from the Mainland Affairs Council, or MAC, comes after it received backlash from several groups protesting a recent demand for over 10,000 Chinese spouses and their children to provide documentation from China or face deportation. Chinese citizens seeking to gain civic rights in Taiwan are required by law to give up their household registration in China. And last week, the MAC said that those missing proof that they've done that have 3 months to go back to China and get it, with a few exceptions. On Wednesday afternoon, the MAC revealed 2 extra categories of people who are exempt from the demands for documents, in addition to the 4 existing ones. Already exempt were people who can't return to China over concerns for personal safety, those who moved to Taiwan before they were 7 years old, people with health issues or a disability that would make travelling back difficult, and those that haven't been back to China since the beginning of 2015. And the 2 new groups, people over 70 years old and people who may not be able to afford to go back to China. The MAC also announced a brand new list of groups who can delay submitting those documents, including those unable to fly due to personal commitments, for example, their military service, caregivers for children, sick people or elderly, and anyone who's pregnant. The National Immigration Agency, who handles such processes, has said they'll review all cases one by one, considering humanitarian needs and the law, a message echoed by the MAC.
不管遇到怎么样的困难，都可以向移民署、陆委会或海基会来反映。政府一定会尽最大的可能来协助民众排除障碍，也会考量个案的状况，适度延长办理期限。
As for these new allowances and how they'll be received by those protesting the original demands, they'll likely have more to say in the coming days. But for some Chinese spouses, at least exemption, and for others, a bit more time to get the things they need to continue living their lives in Taiwan. Leon Lien and Reese Ayers for TaiwanPlus.
While U.S. President Donald Trump's 32% tariff on most Taiwanese exports is on hold, targeted tariffs on electronics and semiconductors are in the works. To gauge how local tech companies are feeling about those possible levies, Chris Gorin went to the Touch Taiwan trade show in Taipei.
I'm here at Touch Taiwan, a trade show for high-tech displays and smart manufacturing. It's also one of the first big tech shows here in Taipei since the U.S. announced its sweeping tariff plans. And I'm here to get a sense of how local companies are reacting. A 32% general tariff on most Taiwanese goods has been paused for 90 days, but Donald Trump says special tech tariffs could be coming as soon as this week. I talked to several exhibitors here, and most declined to speak on camera about tariffs, but many expressed unease, saying it's hard to plan when tariff news shifts from day to day. The CEO of one company here, AUO, has mentioned that the tariffs put about $200 million of their revenue at risk. Many mentioned a rush of orders early this year as customers tried to get ahead of tariffs. Some companies that were looking to break into the U.S. market now tell me they're looking elsewhere. At the same time, many also said that they're carrying on as usual, as the tariffs are beyond their control. Now, despite all the uncertainty around tariffs, you can see there's still a lot of people at this show, with plenty of deals to be made and plenty of business to be done. Devin Tsai and Chris Gorin in Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan's environment minister says the government is open to discussing nuclear power as an option for the future. He made that comment just weeks before the country's last nuclear plant is due to be decommissioned. Tiffany Wong has this as well.
The The long-standing debate in Taiwan over nuclear power is back again. For the island nation, it's not just a question of safety, but of national security.
从这个国家安全或是能源安全的角度来看的话，的确是有人提出这一个想法。那其实我们以行政团队的立场来看的话，我们其实是开放讨论来讨论这件事情。
保留核能是官方立场吗？
并没有。
Almost all of Taiwan's energy is imported, primarily as coal and natural gas. The ruling Democratic Progressive Party has made it a goal to phase out nuclear power by 2025, citing concerns over safety on the earthquake-prone island. The potential resurrection of nuclear as a power source comes just a month before the country's final nuclear reactor, Ma'anshan Unit 2, is set to be decommissioned, leaving a 3% gap in the nation's energy generation. But restarting the old nuclear power plants wouldn't be easy.
老旧核电厂延役，你必须要花出也是很高昂的成本去维修它，然后你还要评估它在新的安全标准上能不能合格，你要把它加强到符合到我们现在所谓的最新的安全标准，都是一大笔钱。
The environment minister estimates that restarting nuclear would cost several billion US dollars, but the issue of energy security could keep nuclear on the table.
煤炭只有36天呐，天然气只有7到11天呐，这时间都很短。如果考虑核能的话，核燃料它的安全质量通常是1年半到3年。
While officials are publicly coy on any changes to their plans for nuclear power, until the country can be sure it has the power it needs in an emergency, calls to reconsider nuclear won't go away. Luffy Lee and Tiffany Wong for TaiwanPlus.
Fight scams, don't join in. That was the message President Lai Ching-te gave in remarks at an anti-fraud conference in Taipei.
不要参加，不要为虎作伥，不仅仅要抓车手，还要抓背后的犯罪集团，就说我们大家一起来，政府责无旁贷。
Those remarks come as Taiwan continues to battle a growing fraud problem. Earlier this year, the Interior Ministry said it prevented nearly 19,000 fraud cases in 2024. And as new tech, like generative AI, has boosted scammers' ability to deceive victims, police and investigators are using AI to fight back.
我们呢就创造了一些 AI 的假人，然后来跟这些诈骗集团做接触。譬如说，这个诈骗集团打电话来的时候，我们判断他应该是一个诈骗，我就把他的这通电话转到我们的 AI 系统上。那我们就 AI 创造出一个模拟看起来像是个真的人，看起来像是个受害者，像是个容易被骗的人，来跟这个诈骗做联系。
Zhang also warned people to not believe in deals that seem too good to be true and to seek the opinions of others if you think you may be getting scammed. An international team led by Taiwan's top research institute, Academia Sinica, has discovered that pain and soreness are actually two different sensations.
But we don't really discriminate between the two. We just have the one word, which is pain, to find that there is a physiological and neurological basis for that discrimination. And that's what's been so fascinating in working with.
The researchers, led by Chen Ziteng, found that soreness comes from overactivation of nerves responsible for body position and movement awareness, rather than from pain sensory nerves. They've coined the term sungception for the sensation of soreness, inspired by the Taiwanese Taiyi word for it. The findings paved the way for future research to develop treatments that can target pain or soreness individually. And thanks for joining us on Here's What Happened. Head over to our website to get more of our news reports and other programs. Finally, check out these meerkats on an Easter egg hunt at a zoo in Germany. I'm Eric Gao. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.
I'm Tiffany Wong in Kuala Lumpur, and you're watching TaiwanPlus.